online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Druce! Druce! Druce!
What's up, AfterBuzzers? Welcome to another episode of Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 4, White Knights. A massive round of applause for Dave Child over there.
Thank you.
It was an excellent performance by you. I'm Roxy Striar. You guys can find me everywhere at Roxy Striar alongside Lex Michael.
That's me. I'm Lex Michael all over social media at the Lex Michael.
Yeah, you're still losing a little bit.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah, I like that we rehearsed it so many times and we're still laughing about it. You just met him, Dave Child, on the ones, or what do we even call it?
On the ones and twos?
No, it's not the
I'm over here on the ones and
I
twos.
got James on the ones and twos. You're on the threes and fours.
Yeah, I'm on the turn them up to 11. Oh, I'm Dave Child. You can find me at Mr. Dave Child on Twitter and the everything else.
And equally brilliant in the performance is Frank Moran.
Oh, gosh. Thanks, guys. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And just anywhere, just in life, just write it on a piece of paper and stick it on a wall somewhere. I'll find it. At Happy Go Jackie.
How are you going to find Happy Go Jackie? Like Frank Moran, you would find, but nobody's going to take a picture of Happy Go Jackie and be like, this is you.
How do you know, Roxy?
Maybe they will. Maybe they will. That's a good point. Guys, as you guys know, we are here at AfterBuzz TV, and you can find us everywhere at AfterBuzzTV.com, YouTube.com/AfterBuzzTV, on iTunes, on SoundCloud. Apparently, when you go like this and wave your hands, that's just in the whole world.
Planet-wide.
Everywhere. I think we're going to have to close out with that song, too, because I'm just not ready to stop hearing you.
I could sing all the time.
Oh, that's going to be my ringtone, too.
Okay, perfect.
And also, every 5 minutes on the 5-minute mark, just maybe a reminder. Just
a nice little Druce.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice
all right, let's get right into it. How did you guys feel? Episode 4. We've been loving the show so far, so did this episode hold up for you?
Yeah, it's fun, and it's interesting to see, like, we've got all the exposition out of the way, so it feels very, maybe comfortable is the wrong word, because it's not complacent, but it feels very, okay, everybody's in place, the team is assembled, there's no questioning of whether or not we're going to do this anymore.
There was, though. That was my big issue about this show. Too much, again, with the, we all need to make a decision. Are you all going to do this?
Should we stay or should we go?
Okay, I take that part back. There was a lot of that. There was quite a bit of that.
On our topic board, it says the choice.
Choice. Okay, so there was still a lot of that, but
it felt like it's still the pilot. But yeah, okay, go ahead.
But it does feel like, at the very least, there is some sense of, what is the word? There's some sense of not familiarity. It's like we have a rhythm.
Yeah, we know these characters now, and it's fun to see them in different team ups. The teams keep kind of switching up a little bit, and that was nice to see. I'm glad to see some Kendra stuff that involved something other than her lost love or her, her missing piece. It was just more about who she was as a person and the stuff that she's dealing with. So that was great.
You've been big on that from day one, making sure she wasn't just a love interest, but she had her own.
Yeah, that she wasn't just because she's the second half of a team, and the same with Firestorm, and I thought there was actually some good Firestorm stuff. I wish they didn't have the previous episode speeches. This was the best speech and conversation between the Firestorms, and that was great. And and it was fun. You got to have some nice spy stuff, and I love teaming up Ray with Captain Cold over there. I think that they're a great team up. So
it was definitely interesting to see them work together. They are such opposites, and we saw a little glimpse of that before, so I enjoyed that also. Frank, how'd you feel overall?
Yeah, I mean, other than my issues of just repeating that initial premise, no, I agree with Dave. That was one thing I did like, the speech between Raymond and Jax this episode. I just wish it hadn't come after, I really like being part of the team. Yeah, me too. It's like, so to go from that to all of a sudden be like, now we're just butting heads again. I feel like, oh, why are we constantly kind of resetting these relationships? So if we hadn't had that speech or originally, then it would have been a nice just ramp up to that big moment between the two of them really coming head to head. But I feel like we're going to set it up, we kind of resolve it, and then we have to put some fractures in the relationship to re-solidify it again.
Well, I also feel like it is a partnership between the two halves of Firestorm, but in a way, and maybe this is just Martin feeling like he's, I mean, and in fairness, he's not entirely wrong, the smartest person in most of the rooms he's in, and he's got that certain arrogance about him. But I feel like he, to a certain degree, approaches his relationship with Jax as a fatherly one. And I feel like whether or not Jax wants to, he does fall into the son role in that dynamic. So I feel like that's inevitable. I feel like that was going to happen no matter what. So I definitely agree with you. It's like, oh, more? Oh, okay. But I feel like to not have it there, while maybe would have been refreshing, I feel like too it is going to happen no matter what, and I feel like it's going to happen repeatedly.
I feel like what I wish they did, instead of having, it seemed like every single episode there was a conversation, and I'm probably exaggerating here, but a lot of episodes there was a conversation between Stein and Jax where it's like, hey, I'm really tough on you. It's like, oh, it's okay, but we're still a team.
Well, let's get there.
Okay,
we're going to get way more into Firestorm, but I want to back up and start at the beginning of the episode when we are not in Soviet Union. We're over still in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, the Pentagon.
Yeah. Oh.
Pentagon.
How are we going to say it?
Pentagon. We have to break into the Pentagon.
Pentagon.
At the Pentagon.
You see, I tried to draw one.
At the Pentagon.
Kind of doesn't look so great, but I did my best,
we
guys.
must break into the Pentagon. Sorry, I'm just having fun with myself over
I think we
here.
just hit the 5-minute mark.
Druce!
Yep, redeeming himself always.
Perfect.
It was cool to see everybody kind of get a job with this Pentagon part of the episode. We needed to utilize everybody's skills in order to get this one mission done. So I did like, instead of seeing all these teams break off, we kind of just saw it was more like the snake through of the entire thing. How did you guys feel?
Well, my issue with this is they're on a time ship that has traveled throughout history, all this incredible technology, yet they can't bring a little tiny micro camera, just take a photo of the document. It's required that they need to steal the entire document out of the Pentagon. Why not just take a photograph of those pieces of paper?
Forget
then
that, just like
out.
a camera.
That's
Just
right.
like,
There you go.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing that they said tonight when Adam's like, I could just go and shrink myself down and take this.
And did they justify at all why they
didn't
couldn't do that?
No.
Yeah, well, it was that Captain Cold's ego was like, watch the good stuff.
You're right, but that's not a great reason to make the plan infinitely more complicated. Though I will say, I did really like the beat of Ray getting super excited at the prospect of dressing like a spy, and then you cut to him wearing janitor blues. That made me happy.
Yeah.
He really did nothing in this plan, though. He really had nothing to do other than just dress in a janitor costume and mop the floor.
And Judge
he was
Judge
kinda,
Snart for stealing the wallet.
Yeah.
He was kind of the Jimmy Olsen of this episode. There was a lot of like, oh gosh, guys, and I'm like, the entire time there was 2 different occasions where I was like, you can shrink to a small size and you have a robot suit.
Yes.
Why aren't you using this more? We could use this throughout the entire episode, but that's.
Do you think it's because his ego was still hurt after last week when he couldn't quite figure everything out, trying to go through Kendra, and he was like, I don't know if I want to use this suit anymore?
I don't think that's the case. I think there was just, they felt like they needed to work as a team, and they didn't want to send just one person in. So
Sure, well, I would say the same thing to Ray, were that the case, that I would say to Snart, because his ego led to several steps needing to be implemented in this plan, which is, stop it.
Yeah. It was, we went through a lot of hoops when it could have been just the easiest mission of all time.
Right.
I guess that's why
Or
they
it
call
could've-
it good TV, though.
Yeah, they could have had something where he could have gone in, shrunk to a small size, gone in, and then there could have been a malfunction in the suit because it's not a perfect suit.
Oh, again,
and then
I
you
would
could
have
have.
I would have gone crazy with that one. Oh,
Why?
Oh, okay.
just again with Palmer's malfunctioning suit. Please, can we go an episode without it? That's why I like to see not seeing him in the costume this episode, because we didn't have to worry about a malfunction.
A lot of people in
okay.
the chat are saying because of the budget That's why we can't see so much.
Making him get little and big again is very
That's the
expensive.
case, yeah.
And he spent a lot of time in CGI blood last week before.
Right. They blew the Adam budget.
Yeah, exactly. We got to go a couple episodes without making him tiny. But I do think it is a great way because the show is fundamentally about building a team dynamic and watching these characters play off of each other. And even though, making Ray tiny and sending him in to just get and not for nothing, if you can make Ray tiny, you could probably make another thing tiny also. Right. Just make the file tiny and Ray could leave with it. But that would eliminate all of this really fun team dynamic stuff that we got.
Yeah, that would be no fun.
No, and I agree with that, but I feel like then just give us a quick sentence, a story reason why we can't do that. Because I think everybody at home is thinking, like, then why don't you just do this?
But the sentence is that the suit malfunctioned or something, and then you're not happy with that. So, like, do you want them to say the budget? Like,
it doesn't have to be the Adam. It could have been just Sarah and Kendra brought a camera in with them and just took a photo of the documents.
I think they should just completely break the fourth wall and be like, due to budget purposes, we must act as a team.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have enough money. The team doesn't have enough money in case your suit breaks down again.
Yeah. The most interesting part about this whole thing was after we finally get out, what happens with Kendra, which I wasn't expecting at all. I mean, from Sarah, because of the Lazarus pit, we've seen it a million times, and the bloodlust, but Kendra just went kind of cray-cray.
I love how in this universe, if you have a near-death experience at all, it seems now, you come back wanting to kill people. That's just what happens. But at the same time, they did set up, because I'm joking, because they did set up with her that there is this warrior side she has to tap into. That in the very first first time we meet Hawk Girl in all of her feathery glory, she has to
Would she call it her goddessy?
Her god, yeah. As soon as the goddess comes out, Hawkman had to coax that out of her by fighting her. So there is a sense that she kind of has a Hulk out thing happen. She turns into warrior mode. So it actually worked for me to have her have this warrior side she doesn't know how to control. And I like teaming her up with Sarah, who has the same exact issue.
Well, kind of opposite issues they realized tonight, though.
Right.
Or opposite solutions to the same issue.
The same issue. This, Hulk out, blood in the eyes sort of thing.
Yeah.
Smart of Rip Hunter or stupid of Rip Hunter to pair these people together that potentially could kill each other?
I think time's going to tell on that one.
Yeah.
I think it's smart. Because, for one, I like them teamed up as a duo anyways, not just because the two ladies of the group, but also because they're dealing with the same sort of issues, and I think it's a good team up, and I was happy to see them training for something too.
Yeah, well, if you're talking strictly about physical power levels, they essentially need each other because anybody else that they try and train with on that ship, they're going to hit once, and that person won't get up for about 3 episodes.
That's true, except for maybe Firestorm, but that's only if he's all firestormed out.
Right.
I guess, and I feel like I would just keep coming down so hard on this episode and just the logistics of it. But it's like,
that's okay. We have a panel to talk about
it. It's a theme with a lot of the episodes is that they're on the same ship, so they should be easy to communicate. Like, hey, tell Sarah and Kendra, hey, we're doing this mission. We need to go inside and need to get this the thermal core. But instead, no, let's not bother them. They're off somewhere else training.
I completely agree, and they kind of say that when they come back, like, what the hell? We were off just kind of messing around and helping each other when we should have been fighting for this team. And Rip's like, well, that will be our next mission. We wouldn't have to have a next mission if you had sent them out. And by the way, what better use of your anger than to go try to save one of your teammates? It's not like he would have been setting them up for failure. It would be setting them up for success. So I was really confused by this choice.
Well, Rip Hunter knows that it's a 13-episode season. And if they get everything done tonight, then they've got, 5 episodes when you get to the end of just hanging out on the ship doing nothing?
So they need to break the wall and say, our budget, and we have much more time.
Well, this is what I did. One thing I did like about this episode as far as logistics goes and story-wise is I like how not every episode is them finding Vandal Savage, fighting Vandal Savage, losing to Vandal Savage, licking their wounds, and having to find him again. This was a good episode where they're just trying to figure out where he is and the next step, and it didn't feel like it was the same episode we've seen kind of over again.
But based on what you just said, does it not feel, and I'm not complaining really because I'm having fun, but does it not feel a little bit like it's one on, one off? Like it is one episode where we regroup or band together at the beginning, but regroup. We've licked our wounds. We got to find Vandal Savage. We find him. then we fight him, we lose to him, we go off and lick our wounds, and then in the next episode we're back to 2 episodes ago looking for him again.
I mean, we'll talk about predictions with the next episode, but my guess is that the next one isn't going to have Vandal Savage. It might, but it might not as well.
I liked at least the lack of resolution at the end of this episode, and it wasn't just because Vandal Savage was there and we had or had not killed him. It was because we're going into kind of part 2 of the episode next week, or we would have to assume, where half our team's been kidnapped, and the mission's more about getting our team back. So I was interested in that, and like you, I'm having fun, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, anything I say, for the record, anything that sounds like a complaint, even if it is, it's a real small complaint. Because this show, like all of what DCTV is doing, is giving me so much of what I crave, essentially for free, four times a week. So they're good. They're good.
Right.
You guys figure it out. We're fine. We're great.
Wait,
We're awesome.
what are your 4 times? Legends,
Flash, Arrow,
Supergirl.
Yeah.
Have you been watching Lucifer?
I have not.
I have.
iZombie?
I've been watching.
I've gotten to iZombie. I hear wonderful things about.
Gotham? Because I'm watching every single
Right.
one. DCTV is crushing it for
Yeah,
me.
it's the Vertigo TV, I guess. It's the Lucifer.
Oh, and Preacher coming soon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Anyways.
I feel like I'm more than every day. I could, if I want to space it out, I have something, which is
Right.
awesome. And I do that all the time. Like, have to hold myself back
Right.
so that I can push it for the next day. Okay, so Kendra and Sarah, they're off doing their own thing. We're kind of in agreement at this panel that we're a little annoyed that they're not in on this loop. Do we
Right.
feel like Rip doesn't trust everybody enough yet, and he just kind of is a little power hungry?
I feel like he's still trying to figure out how to lead a group. I feel like he doesn't, because they set up, even in this episode, they keep repeating that time masters work alone, and they're not used to companions.
The quote was, "A team is a liability." That's what
Right. Druce
said.
This is where Druce comes in, and why we opened our show with "Don't Bring Me Down, Druce."
Ooh, wow. If we are this many minutes in and people didn't get that, maybe we should, like...
Yeah, we should really probably explain that.
Well, I wonder if anybody was like, why does he keep saying Druce?
What is a
this?
Druce?
Okay, so the big bad guy, well, not the bad guy, but the guy, the time master that came by and
I
had
think
a...
I can call him a bad guy.
He's like
He's a
a
bad guy.
mini boss.
Yeah, and gave a talking to Rip there. His name was Druce, so that's what made me think of singing Druce to "Don't Bring Me Down,
And
Bruce."
also played by Martin Donovan, who's an actor that I like a lot.
Yeah,
he's been
he's
working
great.
pretty consistently in film and television since the 80s. He's the star of a movie from 1990 written and directed by Hal Hartley called Trust that I really, really love.
Lexipedia.
Also, last year was in Ant-Man as another
That's right.
mini boss who was trying to buy the
Yeah.
Pym particles for Hydra.
And he was a member of Hydra, so he's a good comic book bad guy.
He's great. We need a mid-level, like mostly evil, but also mostly
Yeah.
bureaucratic type dude. Call him Donovan. Yeah.
He's got that bad guy face. He's got a bad dad face. That's what the type of face he has.
Bad dad?
Yeah, he's like a dad, but he's bad.
Like a bad dad.
He has a bad dad face.
All
Am I
right.
the only one there with the bad dad face? Okay, let's move on.
Speaking of, while I'm just pulling random pieces of information, before we move too far, we talked a little bit, I want to say very, very early on, maybe the first or second episode, about Gideon and how we all noticed immediately that it's not Morena Baccarin doing the voice the way it was on Flash. Finally found out who it is. It is an actress named Amy Pemberton, who doesn't have a huge number of credits on her IMDb, but she does a bunch of video game work. She did voices for, I believe, Marvel Heroes. She was Sif and Lady Loki, and then also was a voice in the Telltale Games Game of Thrones, like episodic.
Do you think
cool.
just because Miranda is so busy, or why do you think that they made that switch?
I feel like she's on Gotham, so that probably eats up a bunch of time. Then she's also was shooting and is now probably still doing some press for Deadpool. So there's probably not, even though you go into the studio for a day and you can record most of Gideon's lines for a season, I feel like it maybe logistically was difficult.
I also like the idea that Rip just decided to make his Gideon sound like that.
Like, you could make your Gideon British or Australian. You can
And
mess
just
around.
change the voice a little bit. So that's my excuse.
I am loving how Gideon is our constant guide and keeps giving us this information, because it's kind of a nice way for them not to have plot holes. It's like, how the heck do we figure that out?
Yeah,
Gideon, yeah.
Gideon wiped the records at the Pentagon.
But it's
That
nice.
sort of thing.
It moves the plot along. You know, you
Yeah.
don't really want to just keep figuring out, like, all right, to get to point C, we have to go through A and B, and now we just get to skip step B, I suppose.
Right.
Well, we also, I mean, talking about Time Master Druce, we also have Kronos making his return here for that.
So I wrote down, Kronos dead, and then I was like, no.
And again, another one of my complaining moments for when they're evading. Another one of my complaining moments, guys. I'm complaining so much about this episode, but when
You're
they're
the Simon Cowell of the group.
when they enter Russian airspace and they decloak and they're trying to use the Russian MiGs against Kronos, so they cut their engines and they just fall. The missiles hit Kronos' ship, and yet they don't turn on the engines again. They just decide to just keep plummeting all the way down and crash
Maybe
land.
they take so long to turn on.
Maybe that would have been nice.
But
just
they
to have,
didn't
like,
say
hey,
it. Yeah.
But see, this is why you need a Frank Moran on your panel, because when I'm watching that exact same scene, I hear them call Kronos Boba Fett again, and then I'm going in my head, wait a minute. On Flash Tuesday night, when Vibe is talking to Reverb, he says, are you Darth Vader
Spoiler
on
alert.
Bespinning me?
Yeah.
And then on Arrow last night, spoiler alert, Oliver, Darth Vader on Bespins, Malcolm Merlin.
Yeah.
And then here, we get a reference to Boba Fett, who was hanging out with Darth Vader on Bespin.
Yeah.
So you're thinking this is more than just...
I think it's just
I think
a
it's
bunch
probably
of geeks writing these episodes.
It's probably coincidental, but I think it's wonderful that three nights in a row.
Yeah.
Little Empire Strikes Back
I mean,
reference.
we have so many references to Star Wars, but also, of course, to Doctor Who, just having Rip Hunter there in
Right.
general and everything. So I love that. A lot of the nerddoms are coming together.
Right. So when Druce comes down with Kronos, he kind of gives this. Druce.
Thank you. I'm not over it yet, so
Right,
I'm just
okay,
going to
fair
keep making you play
Fair
along.
enough. So he asked them to make this choice about, like, okay, you could turn in everything, turn in the ship, everything will go back to normal, and you'll be fine. So the whole, like, group has to make this decision that I feel like we've talked about previous, but they have to make this decision they keep having to make about, and we've talked about in previous episodes about how, like, it's just we're done. I feel like I'm done with this. I'm done with them second guessing this mission.
But
over
then
and over
even
again.
with Rip, I mean, for somebody that this whole thing, the whole reason that this show is in place is because Rip desperately wants to save his wife and child. But you feel like that's just a whole fire that's driving him. And for this, where he's actually just kind of like, maybe guys, we should call it quits for a second. The fact that he's even just kind of wavering, like, what?
I completely agree. Why on earth are you going to be on this guy's team? The only reason that we're here is because of his frickin' wife and child. So really, he's gonna be the one wavering? Ridiculous. And not only that, but the person to bring him back to Earth is Heatwave?
Yeah.
Who's like, basically, yo, bro, just so you know, he's gonna kill you.
He's gonna kill you.
Yeah, and Rip's like, nah, Druce and I are homies, and Heatwave's like, no, man, you're not homies, dude. I don't know why there's surfers in my head.
What up, man?
Yeah, what
Catch
up?
the heat wave, man.
Druce is a total lame-o, bro. But honestly, this was just so irritating to me.
Yeah, it was.
Especially when he goes and brings this choice to the frickin' group and is like, what do you guys want to do? What we've decided to do every single week.
Yeah. Why do we keep talking about this? I mean, this is the first time at least someone didn't die this time, because I feel like someone dies and they're like, we got to reassess things. No, just keep going.
Yes.
Just enough. Anyways, that's my little complaint about
I
this.
agree with that.
There does have to come a point where it's like, if we're gonna have these conversations every time we want to do anything, eventually we're gonna have to have one where we get really real and go, this is either for real last time we're doing this, or we're all going home now.
Yes.
This completely went into the Firestorm debate with them screaming at each other, where Jax is like, you made me do this, and Martin's like, so what, grow up. I feel like we've had this argument many a times.
Like we were saying before, I feel like it would have been better if they've never had this argument and this was the first time they actually talked about it. Like if they had in the previous episodes, if they had a tiff and they would just shut up about it, and maybe they can even hint at the fact of, like, why don't you guys talk, and like, we'll figure this out, and then they're just kind of be more like wasps talking to one another. And then if this was the episode that everything broke out, that all the emotions bubbled up, it would have been perfect because the scene was great on its own. I think the acting was good. I think we
Absolutely.
saw. Yeah, I think we saw with Jax like a emotional side of him we haven't seen before. Him talking about his mother. That was great. I think I saw a bit more of him than I have in previous episodes. So I wish this was the big bubble up, but there have been so many bubbles up.
So many bubbles up
in previous episodes that it didn't seem like it had as much heat as it could have. I didn't mean to do that.
But one thing I did like out of that conversation too was just hearing a little bit more about Martin Stein and how he felt about the loss of Ronnie.
Yes, that was great.
So that was nice.
because
That wasn't that conversation, though. That
Yeah.
was the next conversation, and I needed it to be that conversation. Why don't you look at him and say, here's how my last partner died. I'm not letting it happen again.
Well, that's how people talk. I mean, people don't realize that until after a big blow up about why they blew up.
But he's blown up so many times, you don't think he's realized it? I think he's been thinking it the whole time.
That's why I'm saying they should have just waited until now, because that second guessing himself afterwards and talking about his partner to another member of the team who I'm blanking on right now.
was
Ray Palmer.
Ray, yeah. But my thought is,
yeah.
if you're able to do that, like Martin's line of thinking was, well, I had to hurt him to get through to him, which is
This is wrong.
It's
Is
wrong
what it
and
is,
weird.
though.
But why don't you, if you make that realization, why don't you go tell Jax that, and then go tell Jax, this is why I feel
That's
the
what
way
I'm
I feel. This is why.
saying.
Look, yes, the Wave Rider is fairly large. It's not that big. He wouldn't have to walk that far to find wherever Jax went off to solve.
Yeah, instead of like, I know it would solve this. I'm gonna go to a Russian prison. And that's basically what he did.
And I'm just going to say it, and then maybe Dave will run with it a little bit, but them fighting was like a frickin' married couple.
Right. I mean, they're a relationship this entire time, which is fine. It's perfectly okay to have this December relationship, May-December relationship. I don't know. But it's so when they fight, it never seems like a father-son. Even despite him saying, I really feel like a father to him. No, you're a husband to him.
Sure.
You're a husband to him, and he's a husband to you. And that's okay.
But acknowledge it.
Acknowledge it. There's more than a bromance there. But that's all right.
People were upset because I guess I called him 17, or I think I said he's like 17 and
He's
he's
like
20.
right? Yeah.
So people are way more okay with it
Yeah, it's
because
fine.
he's legal.
Yeah, he's legal.
Well,
No,
okay.
and because I know we talked a little bit about his talk with Ray. If there had been time in the episode for Ray to have a conversation with Jax, to use that as a third party of that conversation, maybe that scene would have served a purpose.
That would have been great.
But to just have him talk to Ray and then it not go anywhere, makes you think, like, why not just have that scene be with Jax and have that just a continuation of their original conversation?
Do you think maybe in the future they're going to try to develop a relationship with Ray and Jax, a friendship there, so maybe he can use that in coming episodes?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, certainly they both have their issues with Stein in terms of, wanting some sort of parental kind of authority figure that they see him both as.
Well, I would think, and not to I don't want to stray too far into prediction territory, but I think there's a lot of room for that in the second half of this story that we're going to get next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We've got it's almost like this is more of a part 2 than pilot 2 was of part 1.
Right.
Pilot.
I mean, but where it's leading
get
is
that?
all.
Yeah, I got there eventually.
You followed? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, where it's leading
The
is all
words.
into that prison, which is kind of where the whole Firestorm breakup kind of takes them into that gulag.
I will wear a half of the Firestorm heart if you'll wear the other half.
Other half, yeah. So we can become a fiery superhero together.
Who are
all
you
of
guys
us.
siding with more right now? With Martin or with Jax, or you're kind of somewhere in between?
Well, I think they both. I think it seemed like a human argument. It didn't seem like something that was.
I don't mean just this argument. I mean in general, because they've butt heads this entire time.
Right. Well, I'm kind of more on Jax's side because Martin is usually his head gets in the way.
You would, I think I agree. There are very human, and not just this argument specifically, but they are very human interactions between the two of them frequently. In that, I don't think either one of them is entirely correct or entirely wrong. I do think of the two of them, Martin should know better.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Frank, how about you?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I just want to feel like, oh, Martin should have a little bit more wisdom. But then, I mean, and not to drag us back down into the pilot, but the way that he just abducts and drugs Jax to get him onto the ship. I mean, just the way he brought Jax onto this mission was, it was not very upstanding. So, I mean, that feel like you lose a lot of points, Martin, in any sort of argument you're trying to hold at that point.
Yeah. A bunch of people in the chat are mentioning that Jax doesn't even have any idea about Ronnie in any capacity, which... Even that,
I think Caitlin and them mentioned that he needed to bond. That's why Jax needed it, because the original person that he was bonding with wasn't there. So that's why they needed Jax
I
to
don't
bond
think they
with
said that
Professor
he
Stein.
died.
Yeah, wasn't there or died horribly.
Yeah. So
I kind of assumed they would have a talk about that, but
if
I guess
they
you never
didn't,
know.
it's
weird.
almost like drugging him and putting him on on the Wave Rider.
It's like the last guy turned out great. He's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine. He's in an alternate universe somewhere being evil. It's fine.
Quick side tangent, but did you guys check out Flash this week, where we saw the guy that was
Amazing.
originally supposed to be paired with Firestorm and had his Earth 2 version? That
Deathstorm,
was so
yeah.
What,
awesome.
Earth 2 Deadshot?
No, not Deathstorm. The guy that was supposed to be Firestorm.
Right,
Lincoln-
Henry
that guy.
something.
Henry,
Henry
yeah.
is there too, yeah.
That was so cool. And Deathstorm was
And
sick
Deathstorm,
too.
yeah.
That was just a really awesome episode.
We also,
Right.
on that same episode, as he's running between worlds, we got our first look at Jonah Hex.
Jonah Hex and a ring from Legion of Superheroes.
yeah,
You
which
see a little flash of that.
I think might be more likely to happen on this show.
Right, I think so too. I think both Jonah Hex and the ring are something that they're just introducing to the universe, but I think will show up on this
Well,
show.
Jonah Hex, they confirmed, is coming to Legends.
yeah.
And I think the Legion ring is a good guess that maybe...
This one.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
All
Who's gonna
right,
play
guys, let's
Jonah
talk...
Hex?
What?
Who's supposed to play Jonah Hex?
Oh, they...
Jonathan Sachi? Is that his name from That Thing You Do? Yes.
Ooh.
That Thing You Do,
Ew.
guys.
I guess it's a
Doing that
Frankopedia,
thing you
too.
do.
Yes.
Yeah, I like it. But we all knew that.
Of course.
I actually think we
course.
talked about it in News and Gossip a couple
Right.
weeks ago. All right, guys, let's talk about this Vostok. Is that a good accent?
Volstag.
Valentina
Actually,
Vostok.
before we talk about this, what is this pill and where do I get it? Like, how cool would that be?
It works
Oh, the translation?
almost exactly like the Babelfish from
Babelfish,
Hitchhiker's
yeah.
Guide to the Galaxy, only that's a tiny fish that goes into your ear, whereas this attaches to your vocal cords, and it's like translates the outgoing information as opposed to incoming information.
But it also translates
yeah.
ingoing, too.
Yeah, so it's essentially, it works very much the same way.
It's a magic pill. It's okay. It's like, that's the type of thing that,
You just have to be like, all right.
yeah, it's sci-fi. We're okay. The same thing happens on Doctor Who. It's like any connection, the TARDIS does something to your brain, and that's how you could talk to aliens.
Yeah.
It's totally cool.
I will say I had to pause and turn to you guys and say, they're speaking Russian, right? Like, it's,
Yeah.
I was glad that they did it this way, though, as opposed to having it in Russian the whole time and putting all the subtitles in, because I feel like it would have been such a drain on the actors that they
Right.
would, like,
Well, to
that's-
phonetically learn Russian if you don't know it.
Right.
On top of which, I feel like, and maybe I'm way out of line, but I feel like the CW doesn't want half of their super popular hero show to be subtitled.
right.
Yeah. Also, I'm also glad they just didn't show up to Russia and everyone just happened to be speaking English, which is something that some TV shows and movies
do, yeah.
Yeah, so that was nice to see.
But it was funny that Vostok still had an accent.
Right. She's just that Russian. She's super Russian.
And super cute. And Captain Cold got a little bit of a make-out session with her, which
Yeah.
is forever proving that bad boys get the girls, guys.
And then
That's
he
true.
stole her wallet, which is forever proving that you still shouldn't trust the bad boys.
Don't trust the bad boys.
Hey,
I mean, but he was up front
That's
with her. He
right.
says he's not her white knight. He was up front.
Speaking of White Knight, worth pointing out,
Yes.
Valentina Vostok is a character from the comics. She
nice
did
segue.
some time as did some time as part of the Doom Nope, taking that again. Did some time as part of the Doom Patrol, where she was Negative Woman, and eventually did become the White Queen of an organization called Checkmate, where she replaced Amanda Waller, who just recently got, shot in the head in this universe. But Checkmate is another organization. DC seems to be full of these big labyrinthine, complex organizations of weird mercenary government types. There's Checkmate, Argus.
And Checkmate had at least at one point the leader of that was Max Lords, right? from
Yes.
from
the original Blue
Supergirl.
Beetle.
Yeah.
Who's
over there
in
now?
Supergirl.
Oh, it all
Anyways,
comes full circle.
I'm just saying that's an interesting. I feel like we're leading up to multiverse crisis stuff always. With
There's been so many comments on it this week too,
Yeah.
and even after the special where Jeff Johns kind of was like, "Ooh."
Yeah.
That was my imitation of him being like, I'm not going to talk about that.
But we saw they've been hinting at that largely on Flash, a little bit through Legends, but we saw just the number of Easter eggs in the episode of Flash this week. Everything that he saw when he was going between worlds. I mean, you saw Supergirl from CBS. You saw the 90s John Wesley ship Flash. You know what I mean? Like,
you saw Supergirl?
Yeah.
Flash? I didn't know that.
There is a multiverse on television. Like it is absolutely a real thing, and what a time to be alive.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And there has to be, because we can't possibly believe that Superman exists in a world where this was happening with the Flash and Arrow, where everything's like at risk.
It's not the
and
same
he's
universe.
like, no, P.S., just not gonna come.
That's just a universe where they never sent Clark off of the ship, off of the planet. He just blew up with the rest of Krypton.
So, wow, I wonder if Wave Rider is going to start venturing not only through time,
But space. That could be something that happens with the Legion of Superheroes, but we might want to save that.
It's going to make me cry.
I know. It's exciting stuff to think about. All right. So we do have the stealing of the wallet, the second wallet he steals that night. Again, are we worried about Captain Cold and his motives in this, or are we just now at this point, whatever, if he wants to take it, he wants to take the wallet?
He's also mostly a good guy, right? He just steals wallets and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think he's really killing any innocent people anymore. I think he's in the good guy bracket in my head.
And he has a code.
He's got a code. And
he's got a code.
Ray Palmer, though, just came off as like a chump with no game this episode.
Right.
Really?
I do have to say, when Ray Palmer said, I learned that from my nuclear science merit badge, I heard that and went like, wait, there's no nuclear science merit badge. I should know. I'm also an Eagle Scout. And then I looked it up and realized there is. There totally is. And I'm surprised I did not take it. And I'm really upset I don't have that merit badge.
Can you call yourself an Eagle Scout then without that?
Yeah,
merit badge?
you can. You just need to get like a lot of merit badges. I'm just not a nuclear Eagle Scout, if that means anything.
I would like to let everybody at this panel know that I was a Girl Scout for 13 years.
Oh, me too.
Until I was a Girl Scout, until I was 18, and there definitely was no badge.
Yeah.
So you guys got some weird stuff going on.
Yeah, we got a lot of weird
and I'm
stuff
pretty
going on.
disappointed in you for not earning that.
I'm sorry. I should have too.
Did it say how you would earn that badge?
You learn about radiation is what I learned, what the effects of it. And the weird thing is, my dad was a nuclear engineer, so he could have taught me this merit badge easily. And I'm really disappointed I don't have it.
All right. Very, very strange tangent we just went on, but I kind of like it.
AfterBuzz TV exclusive.
Sure, yeah, we'll count it. Definitely. Also,
Didn't know about that.
what did you guys think about what happens with Martin, who's just like, I got this, guys. I got this. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to deal with all this. I don't need my other half.
Right.
A little hypocritical after making so much fun of his partner for doing the same thing earlier.
Well, I think the point was he's mostly been the mental kind of backup voice, and he's never the physical side of it. So he got to be the physical side and put his actual body at risk rather than just, his mind.
And not dragging Jax along. He was just by himself. So if something were to happen, it would only be him. Jax would still be safe.
I liked it. I actually liked that he kind of stepped up and did something rather than just telling someone to do something, because that's always been kind of a problem with that character.
Although in the Russian the missile deal in the second episode, he just came in. And,
he seems like the best spy out of all of them, actually.
It did, like, I agree, it was a very it made sense for him to make that move when he did, and there was a certain amount of satisfaction that I got from Dave, like you're saying, seeing him actually step up. Not a great plan, though.
No, definitely not. And the person who stepped up the least this episode we mentioned earlier is Ray. What the heck was that? Couldn't stay strong. Couldn't make the decisions.
Didn't put on the suit when he went into the prison, and I didn't understand that.
No sense. Makes literally no sense. Couldn't get the girl. He couldn't get it done tonight. He just couldn't.
No.
And then when we had that incredible incredible scene where Captain Cold's like, don't hit the button. Like, do not do it. Let her shoot me. Either way. He's like, okay, I gotta hit it. Sorry.
He brought up the levels on the sound mixer.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just raise those. There's
Raise
no
those
snare on those
radiation
headphones.
Yeah, get it nice into the red zone.
I was disappointed in him tonight.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's weird that he was without his suit for so long, and now I think he's stuck in a prison, and they're gonna have to break him out, which is, I think, the next episode. It's gonna be a prison break with the cast of Prison Break.
So we have Ray stuck, we have Heatwave stuck, and we have Martin stuck now. Who do you think is going to be the least useful while being there? Like
Ray.
Yeah, Ray probably.
Ray.
Yeah.
Well, because the thing is, as smart
across
as
the board, straight out.
Well, as smart as Ray is, without his suit, he is just a dude. A very, very smart dude, but I also
Same
don't
with
know.
Martin, kind of.
Oh, true. Although
Not a suit.
he can absorb the nuclear bowling ball power.
Yeah, and all he needs to do
They
is
used an
kind of.
actual bowling ball.
It did look a little like
It
a
wasn't
spray painted bowling ball.
Oh, it was a science sphere. That's okay. Spheres are okay in sci-fi.
And they put it in a bowling ball holder. Oh.
It wasn't a bag, at least. It wasn't like he took the bag and then went
And he was
bowling
wearing his
with it.
bowling shoes, and he had on that button-down shirt.
I think you were watching Big Lebowski tonight. I don't think you were watching the
then
same
they
thing.
went to Alley Cat Strike. That's how I feel about
Okay.
that. No, I just didn't like the way that it looked. Just saying.
All right.
And it looked like the weight of it too. What'd you say, James?
I said the dude abides.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
All right, guys. I think that the rest of this is going to be predictions based
Yeah.
on how we feel everything's going to work out next week. I guess that's what predictions are by definition. Now you need to incorporate Drew.
Druce. Okay.
Brilliant. All right.
There you go.
All right, let's get to it, guys. So next week we are going as a team to rescue our players. What do we think is going to happen? How easy or difficult is this going to be? And how long will Martin be able to hold out?
Well, the one thing that was interesting is that Rip says the whole reason that they didn't send backup is because then he would have both parts of Firestorm, and then he'd also have Kendra, and he could have killed her. But what's the difference between sending him in right then or next week when we have a little bit? I mean, you're still sending them in.
It's because Rip Hunter knows this is a 13
16.
episode season. 16
Right.
episodes.
Yes.
The point is even more profound.
Yeah.
He knows that they have to fill this time.
Gosh, Frank.
Oh, sorry, guys. I am just like Johnny Bad News about this episode. I'm just
Johnny Bad News.
No.
That's a forgotten DC character.
That's right.
Johnny
Yeah,
Bad
yeah,
News.
that's right. But I guess my prediction would be if we're talking about cosmic rays and stuff, as Martin said that he saw when he was picking up that thermal core, and I feel we're going to be seeing Negative Woman. I feel she's going to touch
Right.
that core and get turned into Negative Woman.
Negative Woman, and also a big part of what is going on over there is that they're trying to make a Firestorm. And I had to double check by looking at the cast credits, but the Soviet officer that Stein was talking to, the character's name is Mikhail Arkadin.
Oh, yes!
In the comics becomes the fire elemental Pozar, who
Yes.
at one point there is a nuclear explosion and accidentally ends up melded to Firestorm.
And do you think that's who Vostok was in the previews for next week?
I'm wondering if that using Mikhail was just a nod to it, and since they're building up Vostok, and Vostok does have a history in the comics, maybe they'll slot her into that role, because in the teaser,
Right.
we did see a woman, and we couldn't quite figure out who it was, but who was engulfed
fire.
in flames and seemed chill with it.
It was me.
It was Roxy.
I just have been a spoiler right now. It was me. Somebody in the chat said that we didn't touch upon Kendra and Sarah as much as they wanted. We did, but we did touch upon it. But maybe predictions. How do you guys feel they're gonna end up? Is this bloodlust gonna go away? Are they gonna be able to help each other?
Yeah, I think it's something that they're gonna keep training for, and I think they're gonna develop a closer partnership. But I think that's all that's really gonna happen with it. I think we saw kind of them dealing with this as it stands, and we might have more of when they fight in action scenes coming up. They might help out each other more.
What about that preview where Sarah's like, "You want me to kill Stein?"
Right. I don't know what that's about. That's interesting.
Well, if Stein, even without Jax, has the ability to, say, for example, absorb and contain all of that nuclear energy, and they presumably need the nuclear energy for their plan, which seems to be to make another evil Firestorm, if you're in a situation where you can't break him out and you can't let him fall into their hands and be used for their nefarious ends, what options are you left with?
It's true.
Sometimes you got to kill a physicist.
Sometimes you got to
right.
knock off Victor Carver.
Any other last minute predictions?
Well, I just I this might not be news to you guys, but I read an interview today with Marc Guggenheim, the big boss, the big guy behind this series, and he talked about how Vandal Savage, that whole arc is going to come to an end at the end of season 1, which is interesting and makes me wonder about season 2. What they have planned for that. And I'm thinking the Legion of Superheroes that they're hinting at, that might be more of season 2.
Well, yeah, that could be.
That's my kind of prediction.
I mean, I know we talked about Booster Gold, the possibilities or anything, but at least in the comics, with Booster Gold being Rip Hunter's dad, it'd be really cool for him to all of a sudden meet Booster Gold and realize, this is my dad. I got to turn my dad into a superhero so that he can be, he can have me. So that'd be interesting.
Also, I feel like a lot of these stories, even though creators keep finding new and fun ways to spin them, I feel like we see a lot of story beats repeated in superhero fiction and all of comics over and over and over again. I can't think of I need to turn my dad into a superhero having a precedent.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, one of the things that he did bring back with him is he did bring a flight ring from the Legion of Superheroes in the comics. So that could also tie into the Legion of Superheroes as well.
And very quick mention to the fact that we saw the final BVS trailer, only relevant because we're talking DC right now. It was so sweet.
That was really cool.
And by we, I don't mean all of us we.
I'm avoiding trailers. After I decide I'm going to see a movie, I try not to see any more trailers for it because they spoil too much. So I kind of kept away from it.
Well, you are missing out on this one because it was the best yet and really, really rocked. Frank, did you catch it?
If you want to see Batman just whoop a lot of ass in there.
They absolutely nailed the physicality for how the Bat fights.
Yeah.
That was and Ben Affleck as Batman is huge, and to watch that huge hulking dude just whip around the room beating on people is awesome.
And Wonder Woman.
And what one line from her, and my heart just starts pounding, and then it's immediately followed up with her flying through the air doing her war cry.
I know.
It's amazing.
We don't know a woman like her. Just saying. All right, guys, that wraps our show for the week. Oh, wait, hold on.
Druce.
Yes. One more time.
Druce.
Okay, guys. In the meantime, until we're here next week, where can everybody keep up with you?
I am all over social media at the Lex Michael.
I'm at Mr. Dave Child on Twitter and Instagram and DaveChild.com.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJack.
And if you see that anywhere, take a picture and send it to him. You can find me at Roxy Striar. You can find us at AfterBuzz TV, AfterBuzzTV.com, YouTube.com/AfterBuzzTV, on iTunes, on SoundCloud. This week, really important, if you guys love us, go over to iTunes and write a comment. That could really help us out, and we love doing this show for you guys.
Talk about Dave's singing ability.
Yeah.
That's true.
How beautiful
Then,
I am.
As long as you do that, I know you're going to give us 5 stars because it was pure brilliance.
Yep.
Another
You're
round of
welcome,
applause
Thank you.
for Druce himself and for Dave. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Fedak, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff. We would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments and questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Druce.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.